Hello, my dear friend. Welcome back to my channel. Today, we're going to break the fear that's been stopping you from speaking English confidently. Many people believe that the biggest reason they cannot speak English is because they do not know enough vocabulary or grammar. They spend months and even years memorizing words, studying tenses, watching lessons, and taking notes. They understand conversations, recognize common expressions, and can even read articles or watch videos without much difficulty. Yet, when someone asks them a simple question in English, they suddenly become silent. It is not because they have forgotten everything they learned. It is because fear takes control before they even begin to speak. Fear has an incredible way of making capable people doubt themselves. The moment you start thinking, "What if I make a mistake?" your confidence begins to disappear. Then another thought follows. "What if people laugh at me?" Soon another one arrives. "What if they think my English is bad?" These thoughts become louder than your own voice. Instead of speaking, you choose silence because it feels safer. Unfortunately, every time you stay silent, your fear becomes stronger and your confidence becomes weaker. The truth is that making mistakes is a natural part of learning any language. Think about how children learn to speak. They pronounce words incorrectly. They mix up sentences. They forget what they want to say. Nobody expects them to be perfect because everyone understands that learning takes time. As adults, we forget this simple truth. We expect ourselves to speak perfectly from the very beginning, and when we cannot, we become frustrated. We judge ourselves much more harshly than anyone else ever would. Most people around you are not waiting for you to fail. They are usually trying to understand your message, not searching for your mistakes. Communication is about sharing ideas, not delivering perfect grammar. Even native speakers hesitate, forget words, restart sentences, and make grammatical mistakes during everyday conversations. They continue speaking because their goal is communication, not perfection. Fear also creates another problem. It convinces you that you need to know everything before you begin. You tell yourself that you will start speaking after learning more vocabulary, after finishing another grammar book, or after watching one more English course. Days become weeks, weeks become months, and months become years. During all this time, your knowledge increases, but your speaking ability remains almost the same. Because knowledge alone cannot replace practice. Confidence is not something you receive after becoming fluent. Confidence is something you build by speaking before you feel completely ready. Every small conversation teaches your brain that speaking English is not dangerous. Every sentence you complete weakens the fear that once stopped you. Every mistake becomes a lesson instead of a reason to quit. Imagine standing at the edge of a swimming pool. You can read books about swimming, watch hundreds of videos, and understand every technique perfectly. But until you enter the water, you will never become a swimmer. Speaking English works the same way. You cannot become a confident speaker by preparing forever. At some point, you must trust yourself enough to begin, even if your voice shakes, even if your words are not perfect, and even if you need a little more time to express your thoughts. One of the biggest mistakes English learners make is believing they must speak perfectly before they are allowed to speak confidently. They wait until their grammar is flawless, their pronunciation sounds like a native speaker, and their vocabulary feels complete. They imagine that one day they will suddenly become perfect, and only then will they start speaking. That day never comes. Perfection keeps moving farther away, and the habit of staying silent becomes stronger. Perfection is an impossible standard, especially when learning a new language. Even people who have spoken English their entire lives make mistakes. They forget words, mispronounce names, pause in the middle of sentences, and sometimes use incorrect grammar. These small imperfections do not stop them from communicating, because they understand that language is meant to connect people, not to prove intelligence. The purpose of speaking is to express ideas, not to impress everyone with perfect accuracy. When you constantly chase perfection, you begin to overthink every sentence before saying it. Instead of speaking naturally, your mind starts checking every grammar rule you have ever learned. You wonder if the tense is correct, if the preposition is right, if your pronunciation sounds acceptable, or if there is a better word you should use. While you are busy analyzing every detail, the conversation continues without you. The opportunity to speak disappears because your thoughts become louder than your voice. Many learners have enough knowledge to communicate successfully, but they do not trust themselves. They know hundreds or even thousands of English words. They understand conversations, movies, podcasts, and books. Yet they hesitate over the simplest sentences because they believe every sentence must be perfect. This belief creates unnecessary pressure. Speaking becomes a test instead of a conversation, and every mistake feels like failure instead of progress. Learning any skill requires action for mastery. Nobody learns to ride a bicycle by reading instructions alone. Nobody becomes a confident driver without spending time on the road. Every skill improves through repeated practice, and speaking English follows the same principle. The more you speak, the more comfortable you become. The more comfortable you become, the less you worry about perfection. Fluency grows from consistent practice, not from waiting until everything feels perfect. Mistakes are not signs that you are failing. They are signs that you are learning. Every incorrect sentence teaches you something valuable. Every forgotten word encourages you to find another way to explain your idea. Every conversation strengthens your ability to think in English without relying on translation. If you avoid speaking because you fear mistakes, you also avoid the lessons those mistakes would have taught you. The people who become fluent are rarely the ones who know the most grammar in the beginning. They are usually the ones who accept being imperfect while continuing to speak. They understand that confidence is built through experience, not through endless preparation. They allow themselves to sound awkward sometimes because they know that every conversation brings improvement. Waiting for perfect English is like waiting for the perfect moment to begin your dreams. There will always be another word to learn, another grammar rule to study, another pronunciation challenge to overcome. If you keep delaying your first step until everything is perfect, you postpone the progress that only comes through speaking. Every sentence spoken with courage is more valuable than 100 perfect sentences that remain trapped inside your mind. Speaking English is a skill, and like every other skill, it becomes stronger through regular practice. Many learners believe they need long study sessions or expensive courses to improve their speaking, but the truth is much simpler. What matters most is consistency. Speaking for a few minutes every day is far more effective than practicing once a week for several hours. Daily practice trains your brain to become familiar with the language, making English feel more natural instead of something difficult or unfamiliar. One of the biggest obstacles to daily speaking is self-judgment. Before saying even a simple sentence, many people begin criticizing themselves. They think their pronunciation is wrong, their grammar is weak, or their vocabulary is too limited. This inner criticism often becomes stronger than the desire to communicate. Instead of practicing, they remain silent because they fear disappointing themselves. Unfortunately, this habit prevents improvement because speaking ability grows only when it is used regularly. Imagine learning to play a musical instrument. During the first few days, every note feels awkward. Your hands move slowly, and mistakes happen constantly. If you stopped practicing every time you made an error, you would never become a better musician. Language learning follows exactly the same pattern. Your first conversations may feel uncomfortable. You may hesitate, forget words, or repeat yourself. These moments are not signs that you should stop. They are signs that your brain is adapting to a new skill. Daily speaking does not require another person. You can practice almost anywhere. Describe what you see around you. Talk about your daily routine. Explain your plans for tomorrow. Tell a story about something that happened during the day. Share your opinions about a movie, a book, or a news story. Even speaking to yourself helps your brain become faster at forming sentences without relying on translation. Every sentence you create strengthens the connection between your thoughts and the English language. Another common mistake is believing that every practice session must be perfect. Many learners stop in the middle of speaking because they cannot remember a word. Instead of continuing with simpler vocabulary, they become frustrated and quit. Real communication is different. Even fluent speakers sometimes forget words. They explain their ideas using different expressions until the listener understands. This flexibility is an important part of becoming a confident speaker. Try setting a small daily goal instead of expecting immediate fluency. Speak for 1 minute today. Tomorrow, try 2 minutes. Gradually increase your speaking time without worrying about mistakes. These small efforts may seem insignificant at first, but they create powerful habits over time. Just as a few drops of water can eventually fill a bucket, a few minutes of speaking each day can transform your confidence. Avoid comparing yourself with people who have been learning English for many years. Their progress is the result of countless hours of practice that you cannot see. Focus instead on your own improvement. If today's speaking feels slightly easier than yesterday's, you are moving in the right direction. Growth is often slow, and many changes happen so gradually that you may not notice them immediately. Every time you choose to speak instead of staying silent, you teach your brain that English is something to use rather than something to fear. The more often you repeat this process, the more natural speaking becomes. Confidence does not appear suddenly after reaching a certain level of knowledge. It develops through repeated action, one conversation, one sentence, and 1 day of practice at a time. Building confidence in English does not require complicated techniques or endless hours of study. It begins with simple daily practice that anyone can do. Many learners believe confidence will appear after they become fluent, but the opposite is often true. Fluency grows because people practice consistently, and confidence grows alongside that practice. Waiting to feel confident before speaking only delays progress. The habit of speaking, even in small ways, is what slowly replaces fear with self-belief. The simplest exercises are often the most powerful because they remove unnecessary pressure. You do not need to prepare a speech or memorize difficult vocabulary every day. Instead, use the English you already know. Look around your room and describe what you see. Talk about the clothes you are wearing, the weather outside, or the food you are about to eat. These everyday situations give you endless opportunities to practice without feeling overwhelmed. Another effective habit is talking about your daily routine. When you wake up, explain your plans for the day in English. Before going to bed, describe what happened during the day. These activities help you use common words repeatedly, making them easier to remember. Over time, your brain starts producing these sentences automatically instead of translating every word from your native language. Reading aloud is another simple practice that strengthens confidence. Choose a short paragraph from a book, an article, or any English text. Read it slowly and clearly. Pay attention to your pronunciation and rhythm instead of trying to sound perfect. As you repeat this exercise every day, your mouth becomes more comfortable producing English sounds, and your speaking becomes smoother. Confidence often begins with becoming familiar with the sound of your own voice speaking English. Recording yourself can also be surprisingly helpful. At first, listening to your own voice may feel uncomfortable, but this discomfort disappears with regular practice. Record yourself speaking for 1 or 2 minutes about a simple topic. Listen without criticizing yourself. Instead of searching for every mistake, notice the words you pronounced clearly and the ideas you expressed successfully. This allows you to measure your improvement over time instead of relying only on your feelings. Many learners underestimate the value of repeating the same practice. They always search for new lessons, new grammar rules, and new vocabulary lists. However, real confidence comes from becoming comfortable with what you already know. Repeating familiar phrases helps them become automatic. When common expressions no longer require conscious effort, your mind has more space to think about the conversation itself. It is also important to speak without stopping every time you make a mistake. If you forget a word, explain your idea differently. If you use the wrong grammar, continue speaking instead of apologizing repeatedly. Conversations are not exams. People usually care much more about understanding your message than noticing your errors. The ability to keep communicating despite imperfections is one of the strongest signs of growing confidence. Small daily habits create lasting change because they are easy to maintain. 5 or 10 minutes of speaking every day may not seem impressive, but these minutes add up over weeks and months. Every practice session strengthens your ability to think in English, express your thoughts more naturally, and respond with less hesitation. Confidence is built quietly through these repeated moments until speaking English no longer feels like a difficult task, but becomes a normal part of your everyday life. Many people see mistakes as proof that they are not good enough, but mistakes are actually proof that learning is taking place. If you never make mistakes while learning English, it usually means you are staying inside your comfort zone and avoiding new challenges. Growth begins the moment you try to express ideas that are slightly beyond your current ability. That is exactly when mistakes appear, and that is exactly when real progress begins. Think about how children learn their first language. They pronounce words incorrectly, mix up grammar, and create sentences that make adults smile. Nobody tells them to stop speaking because they made a mistake. Instead, they are encouraged to keep trying. With every conversation, their language becomes stronger. As adults, we often forget this natural process. We expect ourselves to sound fluent immediately, and when we make even a small mistake, we become embarrassed and lose confidence. Every mistake teaches you something valuable. If you use the wrong tense during a conversation and someone corrects you, you are more likely to remember the correct form next time. If you forget a word and have to explain your idea differently, you develop the ability to communicate creatively. If you pronounce a word incorrectly and then learn the correct pronunciation, that word becomes much easier to remember. Mistakes create experiences, and experiences are often remembered far longer than information learned from a textbook. One of the biggest problems is that many learners are afraid of making mistakes in front of other people. They worry that others will judge them or think they are not intelligent. In reality, most people appreciate someone who is making an effort to speak another language. They understand that learning English is not easy. Many of them have experienced the same struggles while learning another language or another skill. People are usually much kinder and more supportive than your fears make you believe. Avoiding mistakes may feel comfortable for a short time, but it prevents improvement. If you only speak sentences you know are perfect, your progress becomes very slow. You never challenge yourself to use new vocabulary or different sentence structures. Confidence grows when you are willing to take small risks. Every attempt, even an imperfect one, expands your ability to communicate. It is also important to stop replaying your mistakes in your mind after a conversation ends. Many learners spend hours thinking about one incorrect sentence they spoke, while completely forgetting all the sentences they communicated successfully. This habit creates unnecessary self-doubt. Instead of focusing on what went wrong, notice what went well. Maybe you introduced yourself clearly, explained your opinion, or understood someone else's question without difficulty. These achievements deserve just as much attention as your mistakes. Every fluent speaker has a history filled with errors. The difference is that they did not allow those mistakes to stop them. They continued speaking, continued practicing, and continued learning from every conversation. Their fluency was not built by avoiding mistakes, but by learning from thousands of them over time. The path to better English is not a straight line without obstacles. Some conversations will go smoothly, while others will leave you searching for words or correcting yourself. These moments are not signs of failure. They are signs that your brain is stretching, adapting, and becoming more comfortable with the language. Every mistake is a step forward because it shows that you are actively using English instead of only studying it in silence. Every person has a voice that deserves to be heard. Your thoughts, your experiences, your ideas, and your dreams all have value, no matter where you come from or how fluent your English is. Many people remain silent because they believe their English is not good enough to express themselves. They wait for the day when they can speak perfectly, hoping that confidence will suddenly appear. But while they wait, Countless opportunities pass by without them ever sharing what they truly think. Speaking English is not just about using another language. It is about creating connections with people from different backgrounds. It allows you to share your knowledge, ask questions, make friends, explore new cultures, and open doors that were once closed. Every conversation gives you the chance to learn something new and to let others learn something from you. When fear keeps you silent, it also keeps your ideas hidden from the world. Many learners underestimate how much they already know. They focus on the words they cannot remember instead of the hundreds of words they already understand. They worry about the grammar they have not mastered instead of the sentences they can already create. This habit makes them believe they are not ready, even when they are capable of having simple conversations. Confidence begins when you recognize your strengths instead of constantly focusing on your weaknesses. Your voice becomes stronger every time you choose to speak. The first conversation may feel difficult. Your hands might shake, your heart may beat faster, and your mind may search for the right words. These feelings are completely normal. They do not mean you are incapable. They simply mean you are doing something new. Every confident speaker has experienced these same emotions at some point. The difference is that they continued speaking despite their nervousness. Do not compare your beginning with someone else's success. Every fluent speaker has spent countless hours practicing, making mistakes, forgetting words, and learning from experience. You only see the result of their journey, not the struggles they faced along the way. Comparing yourself to others often creates discouragement instead of motivation. Compare yourself only with the person you were yesterday. If you know one more word today, if you spoke for 1 extra minute, or if you felt slightly less nervous than before, you are making real progress. Your opinions matter, even if your sentences are simple. A clear message spoken with basic vocabulary is far more valuable than a perfect sentence that is never spoken. People remember honesty, kindness, enthusiasm, and confidence much more than they remember small grammatical mistakes. Communication is about understanding each other, not about achieving perfection. Every opportunity to speak is also an opportunity to grow. A short conversation with a friend, a question asked during a class, a comment in an online discussion, or a simple introduction to someone new can become another step toward confidence. These small moments may seem ordinary, but they gradually transform the way you see yourself as an English speaker. The more you use your voice, the more natural it becomes to express your thoughts without fear. Little by little, hesitation turns into confidence, nervous pauses become smoother conversations, and the language that once felt unfamiliar begins to feel like a part of your everyday life. Your journey is not defined by how perfectly you speak, but by your willingness to keep speaking, keep learning, and keep believing that your voice has the power to reach people, inspire conversations, and create opportunities wherever you go.